The Fletchcast. It's genetics.
Welcome to the Fletchcast, club members. I'm Michael Fletcher, and this is the Fletchcast. Thank you for being here. Today we have, I keep telling you guys that one of my favorite, that the reason the show is so incredible is I know some of the most amazing motherfuckers in the world, and they're from every walk of life. And the kind of the common theme about them is just this ability to keep moving and to figure it out and to do that with a level of dignity. And so our guest today is my good friend, Brad Hughes. And before we get into talking about some of Brad's stories, first of all, I want you to like and subscribe, because last week, Brad, we gave away presidential pardons, and we said, how many pardons we got left? 3.
I think we got some in the back.
All right, we interracial brother Mark says we got some pardons in the back. So if you like and subscribe, you get a pardon. I mean, that's a good deal. It's a new year, and we're going to talk about a lot of things this year, and starting with again my good friend Brad Hughes. Bradley, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great, Mike.
Bradley looks so white because he is white and he lives in Missouri and has not been in the sun. I met Brad 30 years ago, and so when I look at him, and because he golfs a lot and stuff like that, and I'm like, my God, are you sick, son? But here he is. What do you want to talk about, Brad? We got all kinds of good shit. Let me give some.
Even when I golf, I don't get tan because I'm in the woods a lot. So the trees are shaking me.
And you got a lot of grass on your shoes, your ticks and shit. Where's my ball? Let me tell our viewers. By the way, we're up to 527 subscribers. We're 600. Well, that means we only have 30 pardons left. So you guys better get them. 600 subscribers. It's great. And Brad's going to help us on that point, because I tell you, not only is Brad amazing and one of my best friends, he has incredible stories and about a lot of things. And so I was just telling Brad, other than Bishop Tolbert, this is one of the interviews I've been looking forward to doing. Some background with Brad. I don't know if I haven't talked about this. I played rugby for the Kansas City Blues for 13 years. And for those people who played rugby, you know how amazing that is. It's incredible. Probably 70 or 80% of all my close friends are people I played rugby with. It's just how rugby works. On a less enlightening point, I started playing rugby because Joe Fritkin took me out to a practice, and I played, and it was after the game, and I said to Joe Fritkin, I said, hey, who are all the hot chicks? And he said, oh, they date and play and they're married to the rugby players. I said, sign me up. So I did that. And then it turns out you get a drink every single day, and which is good. And it was incredible. Rugby teaches you amazing things about it. And you run into a rugby player and ask them, are 80% of your friends rugby players? They'll say at least. Brad is one of those friends. He and I have done a lot of crazy stuff together. More shockingly, we're both still alive, which is ironic. I have 2 or 3 friends that we have a kind of a deal, and that is, if you ever wake up and you open your eyes and one of us is looking down at you, it ain't good news. Me and Dow Richards came over that one. Oh yeah, if you open your eyes and I'm looking down at you, just assume it's not good news. So, yeah. How are you, Bradley?
Good, man.
Yeah.
Good.
And
it's so true what you said about Dan Lyle's head. I think implanted me. I tell that story all the time in Aspen.
I tell that story better than you because I was watching on the sideline. Brad played rugby for the Kansas City Blues, played for the Eagles, played for the national select team.
Selected the Eagles. Yeah.
And it's just great. He was an amazing player. I loved him. He was really good when I was not good. And we were in Aspen one year, and Brad was down, as you'll hear in this thing. I've just said Brad is the whitest, the blackest white guy I've ever met. In fact, I say he's the blackest guy I've ever met. And one thing Brad likes to do, he'll get down. You want to fight, we get down. But if playing in sports in particular, Brad's like, let's go. And so we were playing Aspen at the Rugby Fest. Aspen was forever the premier team that money could buy. And the Blues were great. We would go out and play and compete with them. And this was a Saturday late afternoon game, so it's probably who's going to go to the finals. And Brad takes a kick and starts to his right, cuts left, and going straight up the field. No, it was Lyle was running at you, right?
Lyle caught it.
Lyle caught it and is running up field.
He was in open field, and he's a big man.
6'4".
Just a stud.
I mean,
he's huge.
Well, he played for he played for Bath.
He played for Bath. He's arguably the best. He's a legend.
Oh, he's definitely and was great.
He's a big, hard runner.
He takes the kick.
He got to tackle big guys both.
You should at least. So Lyle takes it and heads up field, and Brad just fucking straight ahead, wham! And Brad goes down, stands up, walks 3 steps, poof, down again, and literally take him to the side, and he's unconscious basically. He's like, where am I? You're out, dude. I mean, it was the greatest. But that's what Brad does. He was amazing. Did everything great. Played rugby beautifully. Played it. One of the most impressive things to me about rugby is just, again, the dudes, the people you play with. And Brad was 100% on the field and 100% off the field. So it's great to have him. He also has, unfortunately, some stories that come from that. Brad is, I think, were you the first rugby player to talk about CTE?
Yeah, I think I don't know that for sure, but I credit.
Do you know of anyone who did it before you? I don't.
Yeah, well, Liz caught the story that our good friend Dow and you and some friends knew something was going on in my personal life. And I was playing with the Classic Eagles in Bermuda. Met Liz. She works for the Huffington Post. And caught wind of the story.
Let's give Liz's full name. So, do you know her full name? It's
what's that?
Liz's full name.
Liz Goldenberg.
Yeah.
Liz Goldenberg. Yeah, she wrote. She was an editor or whatever, but she was doing a story on our soldiers coming back from war that were committing suicide. And at that time, when she talked to me, there were over 60 people. So she was getting ready to do a story, and she said, "Hey, I want to do a story for our rugby family and do an op-ed submission to newspapers all over the world." And so she took my story down. And to answer your question, was it the first rugby guy? I don't know, but the response from it was pretty incredible, and it's a scary thing, man.
Well, but what the story talked about was, CT, that a lot of you people know now is generally attributed to football, but rugby, it's the same thing. It's a form of brain damage caused by generally repetitive blows to the head. Horrible results to many people with CTE, including abusing the abuse of alcohol and drugs, and unfortunately suicide. And it was and is a horrible thing. Brad has gone through a lot and is just a tough dude. And as you'll hear in this interview, Brad has taken it upon himself in many ways to talk about things that are hard, but that need to be talked about. And Brad was, do we say suicidal? I think you were thinking about it really hard.
It's in the op-ed. Yeah. I mean, it's like there was a time when I was confused. There was a lot of just weirdness. I wasn't the nicest guy to some friends, and I'm going to say I was kind of a bully, but it was one of those deals when you go home and you sit there and it's like, man, what the hell? That was really not. I've got some of my good friends here in Kansas City that I wish I could turn back time and change. So things gradually started happening with work, short temper, forgetting names. People say, I was going through a divorce at the time. And people were like, you're feeling this way because you're going through a divorce. No, that's not it. I mean,
we wish that was the answer.
I was happy about that. I mean, that didn't make me depressed at all. That was, in all fairness. But
By the way, I have one of the great Dave Smith lines ever about getting divorced and going to AA. Dave Smith is a great lawyer in Kansas City, our friend, former great guy, and he I don't drink. I went to AA. Dave took me to AA, and Dave Smith's line was, "Yeah, I went to AA because I thought my wife was a bitch and I was a drunk. Turns out my wife's just a bitch." Anyway,
Yeah.
go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, no. So it was confusing. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of confusion, and just my temper I had always had a bad temper anyways, but it was like off the record and off the charts at that point. And
Now,
it was good.
let me point this out as one of the reasons that, Brad and I've always liked Brad is people say he was a bully, and he really wasn't. One of the reasons I like Brad would not allow someone to bully anyone else. And he just was. It was just, if you bullied someone else, Brad was just going to kick your ass. And I always like, man, that's just a cool dude. And at this time, you were that willingness to defend other people. It was, you were out on the edge a little bit. I mean, you could see it. You could see something was changing.
Confusion. Yeah, it's a cloud. It was cloudy. And it got scary because all those thoughts are running through your head, and I don't like who I am. And you only feel that way when you go home. You're by yourself. You reflect about a situation that happened, and bad thoughts run through your mind. And so I went to try to get help from my primary care physician. He's a great guy. I've seen him for a long, long time, and I finally brought it up to him, and he wasn't giving me the answer I wanted. And he's like, "Well, try these pills, try that." I go, "Yeah, but what is it? What is it?" So he gave me some depression medic. People automatically, "Oh, you're depressed,"
Right.
because of what's going on in
Right.
your life at that time.
Right.
That's not it.
Right.
It's beyond that.
And by the
I know
way,
my body.
that's really not helpful to you. You know what I mean? This need to medicate depression, if it's not depression, doesn't help. And you weren't.
Well, we did.
You weren't
He
depressed
didn't know
for
at
that
the
reason.
time, and I really didn't know at the time, but I did know that I'm not a depressing guy, and having these thoughts, and you see that a lot. You see happy people, but you don't know what they are behind closed doors when
Right.
they're by themselves. So I was one of those guys, and I knew something was wrong. So, it was great having Dow, our good friend Dow. It was
Yeah.
great to have you. It was great to have friends around that could see the change. And then there was this confusion. At this time, I was dating my now wife, and things were getting out of hand there.
Who, by the way, is hot. I feel obligated to say that to Andrea anytime she's around. Just
she's out of the room now.
Oh, and then I hate her.
I'll tell her.
So you met Andrea, but let me go back a little. Let me go back a little before that, because there was a time where, I really have this thing about looking at people and feeling and hearing it, and again, you and I were great friends, and I could tell there was something else. I could tell that there was something wrong, and because I knew you were. I think we were leaving. We may have been leaving Kelly's one night, and I think you had gotten in a fight. And I remember looking over the car going, "Man, you have to kick everyone's ass, dude." And I remember just going, "Man, do you remember that? It was weird that it was just, and it was, I could tell something was wrong. And then Dow was really helpful beyond that point.
Yeah. I mean, there was triggers, right? There were triggery moments, things that would take me 0 to 100 like that. And I didn't want to be that way. I guess that's the big thing. I didn't like it. It didn't feel good, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think I lost some friends, scared friends. Friends didn't want to hang out. It's like, dude, whatever. It's just like
they didn't have bail money at home, so they're like, "I'm not going with that dude. No way."
Yeah. So I guess speaking of God, I mean, things happen for a reason. One, I didn't succeed in following through with what I really wanted to do when I know I didn't want to do it.
But let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Can I say this first? Is again, as I said in the lead, and you're amazing about your honesty. But what I love about your honesty is it's not necessarily. I mean, it's not self-serving. You genuinely are trying to reach out to other people and saying, "Hey, look at me." I know on the CTE thing, I was so proud of you that you weren't saying, I'm the worst. You weren't being sad for yourself. You were saying, look at me. Everyone look at me, not for me, but for people who aren't like me, who can't get to this point of asking for help.
I think people are pretty proud of them. I mean, we're self-serving in the fact that we're going to figure out things on our own. I'm not going to go to somebody, and that could be rugby guys.
Yeah, that's a guy thing, though, isn't it? That's a guy thing. It's a sign
that, if you admit something, you're weak, right? And I think that's kind of in the op-ed submission that was done. Bob Costas contributed to that article, and one of the words he said, or the phrases he used, he's like, hey, we're not deterring your kids from playing contact sports, but know the signs.
Right.
So my friends like you knew that wasn't me, the way I was acting. And then, I sought help and told the doctor.
You did make a suicide attempt.
Yeah, I took, so all those depression, the meds that were there that were weird. And I had an incident with my wife, and it turned out bad. She basically left, said, hey, we're done. And
can I annotate this now? Because this was the part that I love. It's when Andrea said, hey, motherfucker, get your shit together or I'm done. Yeah. And I just think it's funny. She's like, here's the story.
Yeah.
And it was great. And she loved you and cared, but she was like, oh no, motherfucker, this once.
Yeah, I put my hand through a wall because she didn't want to put out, and I got mad. Which, oh man, I've been rejected a lot. Why all of a sudden am I getting pissed, right? So I was angry, and I went off. I mean, it's weird. I don't know how to explain it, but you just black out, And I put my fist through a wall and kicked things, and I was pissed. Called her names that I'm like, man, I didn't mean those names, but it just came out. They say you can never take words back, and she did. She said, "Get the hell out of here," and she left actually, and I'm sitting there by myself, man. I'm like, at that time, I lost the best thing that could have ever happened to me.
Let's before we go, there's one thing I want to talk about, because I remember you falling in love with Andrea, and it was just one of these moments where this is it, this is cool, this is great. And then I remember when you were like, I think I fucked up, dude. What was it like falling in love again after you just went through a divorce and a marriage? Was you had Peyton, who's great, and it just didn't end well. What was that like? And then let's go back into the moment of, oh shit.
Yeah, my first wife, we liked each other, we tolerated it. I don't think either of us were happy. We faked it a lot. Just little things like holding hands in public, or just, just being intimate, like just normal. We didn't have.
And Leslie's great. I mean, it's one of those things where it was better that you guys get divorced.
Yeah. It just wasn't working out. So, and then meeting Andrea, I was like, wow, you did get Peyton.
You did get Peyton out of the deal, though.
I actually tried to set Andrea up with a guy that worked for me.
Now, were you trying to set her, or were you just trying to? That's one of those quintessential guy lead-ins. Hey, you want to go out with my friend? Meaning, do you want to go out with me? But that wasn't it. You really were.
Swear.
Oh, wow.
I was not interested. I thought she was cute, but there weren't like the sparks. Like, oh, this is the one. It just so happened that went to a party. I needed somebody to go with me, and I was tired of going to these parties out in California by myself with customers. And I'm like, hey, I'm divorced now. Do you want to go? So it was the first time I ever asked somebody out on a date in almost 14 years. Right? It was weird. I was nervous. I'm like, wow. And so I picked her up.
Other than those brief nights on Santa Monica Boulevard. Just joking. There was none of those. There were none of those.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I fell in love. I mean, I was just like, man, you're fun. We get along. And, I was, yeah.
Great.
It was just like all over. It was cool, nice, and real. And yeah, whatever. Yeah,
all right. Now let's get to you almost fucking it up.
Yeah. So arguments and trust. I had trust issues. And that's the other thing that I'm like, why am I worried about this. I never worried about stuff like this before. That's when I kind of knew something was going on. And was having these issues, saw the doctor. I'm in California, and we went out and came back, and, you know, just the smallest thing. She didn't want to put out. She didn't want to sleep with me at the time. And I got mad and I punched the wall and called her names and sat down after she left. I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah. What was
You know,
that?
what is going on? So, and then this time I was done. I was just, I can't handle this. I don't like myself. I don't know why I'm doing what I'm doing. That's the weirdest thing, is not knowing why. I'm not in control of myself at that point. That was the weird thing. So I took 2 bottles of pills, and they were potent, and there was a bottle of wine there, and I just chugged it. I'm like, I'm done. See you, bye.
Yeah.
Woke up the next day, and I woke up in bed, and I know this happened on the couch. Woke up in bed, and I obviously wasn't feeling good, and talked to Dow after that. And he goes like, you took what? I need to know
Dow
the
Richards.
dosage.
Dow Richards is our great friend who passed away, who was an amazing doctor, by the way, and so great. As Susan said, he diagnosed his own brain tumor, and Dow was amazing. Yeah. He's great. Great.
Yeah, awesome guy. And when he said, you know, when I told him what I took, and he goes, dude, you took enough to kill a horse. There's a reason you're still here. So that is why I'm like, you know what? I'm not the only one feeling this way. And I know a lot of guys that, you know, there's a handful of guys right off the top of my head that I could think of that's going through the same thing that I went to, or had the same interactions. So then it just so happened when Liz Goldberg offered to do the story, I go, absolutely, because it needs to be out there, and it's an easy fix. So,
well, let me ask you this before we say that, though. What was so important about that piece and your advocacy after it was talking to former athletes who are out there tackling the world every step of the way, and they get home and they're scared and confused, and having them understand that, hey, there's a reason for this. I mean, that was great. I mean, there were people, rugby players who played forever, coming in saying, you know, thanks, Brad. Thank you for doing this. I mean, it was a big deal. It was a big deal. It was a big deal.
There were hundreds of people that reached out to me, and then other people, friends that I went to high school with, that heard the story. And they're, you know, one girl that I went to high school with, her son was big into motocross and was racing, and I think he was 14, 15 years old, and had one concussion. And when they diagnosed me, I had well over 20 serious concussions.
Oh, a year.
So
no, seriously, you, I mean, you just have to see videos. I mean, you're 100%, dude. You had at least 6 or 7 concussions a year, at least.
Well, you think, I know we're jumping around here, but like Junior Seau,
Sure.
And Andre and I will watch football, and, you know, I laugh at, you know, all the technology going on in the helmets, going back to Bob Costas. You could keep kids from contact sports, just know the signs, right. But a helmet will only protect your head from getting injured. It doesn't keep your brain from becoming scrambled eggs. And that's a true point. I mean, Dale Earnhardt, you know, died. It's that impact. Your brain's moving. So a lot of people just weren't educated, but there's a lot of my friends at all different levels all over the world, you know, commenting. They're like, hey man, I just thought I was getting old. And similar situation. And what do? I go to your doctor and tell your doctor.
That was kind of creepy when you said that. It was like, man, and what was that? Was that 8 years ago you did that piece? Was it 6?
It's 2012. Yeah.
See, I don't have CTE.
October.
8 years ago, but that seems a long time ago. And today, CTE is not uncommon, or people think of it, but then it was cutting edge stuff. I remember it was saying it was not good.
Yeah. It was. It was interesting. And again, Dow, I think talked with you, and I know Andrea was talking to you, and my family even could see a difference. And so Dow called me. He goes, hey, I think he just lost a friend to suicide. And he called me. He goes, hey, I'm not going to lose another friend. I got you set up at the hospital. If you don't go now, I'm going to pick you up. He goes, and I mean it, Brad. I want you to run, don't walk. I'm like, wow. And so there's that love and I'm like, okay. So I drove to the hospital
and the
like,
reason Dow said, come meet me, was he was worried about you.
Yeah.
Worried about you committing suicide.
Your true friends notice a difference, right?
Worried about you committing suicide.
Yeah. Cause and again, it's not something I wanted to do, but it was just like a last straws, because I didn't like who I was and I couldn't figure out. And that's the aggravating thing about it is I want to fix it, but I don't know how.
You know what else with you is, I think this is an important point for people to understand, is you're not a quitter. I mean, I remember you getting your degree. You just refused to quit. You were going to keep fighting and keep fighting and keep fighting. But when it gets to the point where the head of ER says, I'm coming to get you now, man, the trouble, the journey that you had to go through, and then you get to the point where you're like, fuck, man, I can't get this figured out. It's tough. I mean, one thing, when I got divorced, as God is my witness, I filed for divorce. Nothing wrong with my ex-wife that I know of. Joking. I filed for divorce, and I could not believe how difficult it was. And I said, one thing I'm going to do after this is I'm going to tell people the truth about divorce. Dudes, the truth. It is hard as shit because you can't find an answer. You're like, okay, when does this ugliness end? And there isn't one. And so one thing that I want to do, and I'm going to do, is tell people it's hard. One of the things important about your journey is, it is fucking hard. It's where you're dealing with this and you're trying to, it's like trying to stick a slab of some Jello to the wall. You can't. Can you talk about what was that like? What did it feel like when you were, you say you go home and you're confused. What does that mean? What's going through your mind? What are you thinking?
You're confused as far as, why did I do what I did when I'm not that kind of a person? I think I'm everybody's friend until you piss somebody, it's just like, the deal. Just don't wrong me. And I would try to, in high school, always fighting. I lived in Jeff City. It's what you did. You fought with your best friend, just like you fight with brothers or whatever. But that was
you're
just
obligated
kind of
to, and you're Catholic, got to. That's Catholic. Right. I got 6 brothers. We're fighting.
Yeah. Right. So just the confusion of my actions and not being able to control the action, those triggers, the trigger mechanism. And that's a good question, because I asked the doctors that when I finally got in. I had a neuropsychologist and a neurosurgeon in the room with me. I'm like, why can't I fix it? What is going on that I'm short-tempered, that I'm forgetting names, that it's the confusion? And the best thing they said was, you're over the years of your life, your house of cards, you're building a house of cards. Now they said, like, going through a divorce and it's stressful, and that probably caused it to collapse, and you're trying to rebuild it and it keeps falling. Why am I dropping a coffee mug? I'm just picking it up and I drop it for no reason, little things like that. So they did the CAT scan and they said you had severe frontal lobal damage to your brain from all the concussions. Now, it wasn't just rugby. It was throughout my whole life that, didn't have the proper treatment of at that time. So just from that time is when, man, I know a lot of people that are going through the same thing. Right. They're just not coming out saying it. So
what was it like when you thought that you blew it with Andrea?
It was devastating, right? This is somebody, it's like I found, it's that cliche, my soulmate. It was just, we had fun. It was new. And, and I was telling myself, don't fall in love with the first person you see, that kind of stuff. But it just worked, right? And she's beautiful.
And for clarity, because I am the greatest advisor ever, I was just like, dude, don't fuck it up. Well, we'll just go back and fix it. Well, I can't. Yes, you can go fix it. Go fix that. Fix that.
And I was bound determined to, because then, I spent the week in the hospital. They treated me like a guinea pig, trying the meds. And, the neurotransmitter in your brain, is the way they explained, is just like this. We need to slow these down so that you're clicking, because that's where your confusion everything is coming from and the short temper. You're just not thinking clearly. And so they fixed that. And man, Mike, it was just like the sky became bluer, the grass was greener.
Yeah.
I could handle situations, shit that used to bother me. I'm like, it's nothing. Right.
So and let's quantify that. So you go on, your job is amazing. You move from California back to Missouri. You're doing amazing sales work. You have a new home. You have a new daughter. To walk people through that. And this is one of the reasons I'm doing this podcast. I want people to get it that, man, dude, life is hard as shit sometimes, but man, if you keep working, it can work out. I know you don't want to brag. I mean, actually, you do want to brag. No, actually, you don't want to brag. Tell people what happened since then. Just the changes that you were able to go ahead and accomplish and to make, you know, these amazing strides in your life almost 8 years ago. What walk us through that?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're in a position to reason better. So little things that triggered me before, they didn't, you know, then you'd be able to have a good conversation with people. I was a listener. I mean, it actually stuck, and I became genuinely, you know, when I asked somebody, how's your day going? I meant it, number one, not just, you know, and then they would tell me, hey, my day's great. Well, why is it great? You know, before just kind of being in one ear out the other. You know, that I could see a big change. It's like I loved my friends more than I ever have, and I was genuinely
walk us through your employment success since then. And again, this isn't to brag. It's what people. There are people like you every fucking day. They're sitting there that'll hear this. But you were a rocket, dude. I mean,
yeah, things went well. I mean, and again, it goes back to listening and understanding people more. And I think that's the true thing. Number one in sales is to be a good listener, but now I really mean it. And I've become friends with all my clients. And you know, it's like friendship first, business second. And that was never the case back in the day. It was me being selfish. What's in it for me?
Yeah.
And
so for clarity, you guys, your economic circumstances dramatically change. Your employment circumstances dramatically change. It's again taking that moment to understand what's wrong, fixing it, and your life was good anyway. But once you fixed it, it was just this clink higher, and you're. You know, people don't know that Andrea's parents moved out with you guys, or grandparents. You guys, you had in your home 3 generations up. Is it 3 or 4? I can never figure that out. So Avery Payton, you, Andrea's mom, and Andrea's grandparents. So is that 4 generations?
So it would have been, yeah, you have grandma and grandpa, Karen. Yeah, 4 generations.
In your home, you have 4 generations of family. 2 very ill toward the end. I mean, that's that. If you want to talk about patience and concern and compassion, what else do you want? I mean, that's amazing, dude. I mean, that's amazing.
It was, yeah. You know, I'm not going to say it wasn't challenging, but the way I handled challenges back in the day were totally different.
Right.
Than doing it now.
Well, we're not going to applaud you for not beating up Andrea's grandparents, you know, fucking. But it was amazing, and it was incredible. And, you know, there's that part of your life, and that's cool. And that's great. And there's other things going on that I wanted to have you come on for. One. And that's the CTE journey was amazing. The anger journey is something else that we'll talk about more toward the end, because again, and we should all do this when you see something in a friend. It's okay to say, "Hey, is everything okay?" Because that's how you get to a point where you can do something. That's how you get to Dow Richards, you know. And by the way, Dow Richards here's how I sum it up. I said, Dow Richards was a blonde-haired, blue-eyed white dude doing a residency in California, who left his residency in California to go work at the ER in just the central city of Kansas City. And as I like to say, that's the kind of dude he was. Just amazing person. But it's, asking, when asking someone when something's wrong, especially like now during COVID, I was reading this thing on kids and how stressful it is. And I caught myself the other day being mad at Callista, and this is stressful. And so taking that moment to ask what's wrong can produce some things. Cause your life is turning around. Something else I wanted to talk to you about on a less, I was going to tell a story about one of your great fights at Mike's just because I loved it. And it's where the guy touched you and you said, don't touch me.
Well, he was starting a fight with Chief for no reason. If you remember.
Well, I do. The part I remember most is the chick he was with. While you're beating him up, she hands me her number and says, "Call me." Thank you. I will.
Yeah, this guy's not as tough as I thought he was. You Rugby guys are a different breed.
The something else I wanted to. One of the reasons, and on my podcast, I refuse to talk about politics just because it's easy. It's just easy. Anyone can talk about politics. And frankly, I don't think politics says a lot about anything. And a perfect example of this is Donald Trump. And I'm not a Trump fan, but it doesn't matter. One of the things that I've consistently pointed out to people, and that is that if you like Donald Trump, and if you're a Caucasian person, if you're white and you like Donald Trump, people just say you're a racist. And to me, one of the reasons we have such difficulties in this country moving forward is it's this forcing everyone into one camp. And one of the reasons I started the Fletchcast is that multiculturalism expands us based upon race. When other people want to separate us based upon race, that's fine, but it separates us. And I've consistently, it's amazing that if you're Caucasian and you like Donald Trump, then therefore you are a racist. And it's and I tipped Brad off to this before because I wasn't going to, but I keep saying to people that it doesn't make you a racist if you like Donald Trump, particularly if you're Caucasian. Here's the truth. I voted for Barack Obama because he was a club member. I liked him because he was a club member. It's okay if you're Caucasian and you say, I like Donald Trump because he's kind of for white guys. I know that's not politically correct, but that doesn't make you a fucking racist. You know what I mean? And it's, I have my nephew Conan, who I love to death, is the biggest Trump fan in the world, and I'm positive he's not a racist. Brad is a Trump fan. I'm positive he's not a racist. But I wanted to talk to you about Donald Trump and about the process, because to me, I think it's important that if people would just say, I'm for Donald Trump because he's for me and I'm Caucasian, that's okay. And since I know you're not a racist, unless something's changed in the last 2 weeks, how do you feel about that? I mean, isn't that true? I mean, don't.
I've seen it through. Here's my deal. I'm not a fan of the media. As far as the media, how they and that's where it's kind of a sore topic for me, just with the media, because everything you watch on the media is so negative. Everything's negative. And that's where I've seen it. Have I experienced it personally, somebody coming up to me saying, hey, you're for Trump, you're a racist? No, it hasn't. I've seen it, heard it. People that know me know that I'm 100% not. I mean, you're the godfather of my child. You're the best man of my wedding. I mean,
I'm your wife's favorite lover. What else do you need?
I played football at Lincoln University. Some of my best friends are black.
Yeah.
I mean, my best friends are.
By the way, this is the part where you end up having this stupid. It's like you don't have to explain it at all. But what's funny to me is it's like Eddie Murphy does this bit where he says, "I guess people don't say nigger when I'm around, so I don't hear it too much." Well, I'm telling you, everyone when they're talking about a white guy who likes Trump thinks he's a racist, and it's like, where the hell? How?
Yeah.
How?
It hasn't happened to me. Yeah, that hasn't happened to me personally. I've heard about it. I've, whatever, social media, you see it and hear it. And yeah, it makes my skin curl because, man, I'm not. There's times I hope nobody comes to me and says that because I I don't know what I would say.
How do you help people understand that? And again, this isn't me saying you're racist, but to me, it's just how explain to people out there who say if you like Donald Trump, you're a racist. Explain to them why that just isn't true. And are there
true.
Trump supporters that are racist? Sure. And as I like to say, there are Obama supporters that can't stand white people. So does that make them a racist? Tell people why. Tell them how it makes you feel. First of all, to say that you're racist. Let's break it in parts. How does it make you feel when you hear people think that you're a racist? Period. Without knowing you, what does that feel like?
I'd want to say, yeah, no, it's hurtful, dude. I mean, it's hurtful, and I would be like, what did I do to come off that way? And is it because that I supported the guy that's a non-politician, that I was sick of the system and career politicians? That's why I voted for him. Does that make me a racist? No, not at all. I don't, I hate to say, and my wife corrected me, I don't see colors. Well, then she's like, yeah, but you do because you just said that.
But this is the catch-22 for white guys in many ways. If you say I don't see color, but here's my point. Everyone sees colors. It's what you see them saying and doing that's the issue. But here's the other part of it. Isn't it okay for a white guy to say I'm for Trump because he's pretty much for white guys? I don't think that makes you a racist. Kamala Harris.
I would never say that, Mike.
Well,
I would never say that.
You could, but I think it's fine. But I think it's because it's okay. Here's my story. Kamala Harris, when she was Attorney General of California, had more stop and frisk than New York ever thought about. Stop and frisk is absolutely racist. I'm still supporting her because she's a club member. That's why. Caucasians can say, I'm for Donald Trump because he's for white people. That doesn't make you a racist. I don't think so. It doesn't. It doesn't. All right, sorry. Don't you think? I mean, you think it does? You think if you can't like him because he's for white people? His policies, some of his policies, here's the problem, I think, is some of his policies are racist. Like, the guys in Chancellor, wherever the places they're saying Jews can't replace us. Why is it so difficult for you to say policies of Donald Trump support white people?
Maybe I just don't know well, maybe they do. Maybe they don't. I don't know.
But what's wrong with that, though? I mean, here's my point is I think if you're Caucasian, you could like a candidate who you think is going to support you. I don't
like him because he supports me because I'm white. That's not why I like it.
Well, and I'm not okay. I'm not saying that's why you do.
That's what it sounds like you're saying. But that's not why.
I'm not saying that's why you do. But I'm just saying that it's okay for people to like a candidate based upon his or her race or gender. It is. And when people distort it, and I did a whole thing last week on the media trashing multicultural, successful women. I mean, they just it's open season for the media attacking, Kim Kardashian because who just goes out and saves people. I did this whole thing on. Kim Kardashian goes to the White House and she's a piece of shit for meeting with Trump, even though she's saving people's lives. So I'm not a big fan of the media either. I'm just saying that if you are Caucasian, if you're Latino, it's okay. It does not, in my opinion, make you racist to support someone who you think supports you. But
right, sure. I mean, that could be the same thing. I could like Barack Obama.
Sure.
When he was in office because he supports.
Sure. I like Barack Obama because he was a club member. That was number one reason. So
yeah.
But
I don't know, man. I think I know what you're talking about, Mike.
You know what I mean? I don't think it's like saying you love your brother. Here's a good example. You are for your brothers, your biological brothers, because they're your biological brothers.
Right.
Even when they do stupid shit. I think that's okay. But and again, I'm not saying that you're racist, that's the reason you like them, but I'm just saying that this blanket attribution of a Caucasian who likes Trump as being a racist, is silly. I mean, it doesn't make sense to me. I don't even think it's accurate.
No, I'll agree with you.
I mean, it is really accurate that it doesn't make you a fucking. I mean, you're not a racist. I can name five Caucasians I know who I mean, it's if someone said Brad Hughes is a racist, I would first of all I would say he is a fucking racist if they said it, because it would be great. I would just go with it. I go, yes, he is. In fact, I've seen him burn shit before. But if someone came and said Brad Hughes is a racist, I'd say, okay, you're
Bullshit,
sure he is. But there's lots of people. I mean, it's Matt Tanner's a great example. I love Matt. Matt's a great dude. He likes Trump. If you said he's a racist, I'd say stop it. You know what I mean? It's just it's not accurate, and I don't think it helps anyone. I think it drives us further apart, and it's dumb.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, and that's again, I think my opinion. Just my opinion. I think that's where the media has really, they talk about division, Trump's dividing the country. I'm like, I think the media is dividing the country to an extent, in my opinion, is because of all the rhetoric that's being said. And it's aggravating, man. I mean, there's all these other laws, there's this and that, but you can't touch the media. And, so be it. Whatever.
And
that's my deal. Like, move on.
One of my favorite things about the media is because have you ever heard my line that conservatives worry me, but white liberals scare the living shit out of me? The media, and again, I like the media. I mean, I like some of the media. It's because they're not racist, but you watch the news on Friday and Saturday. It's when they bring in all their African American and Latino reporters, and it's great. And I'm like, oh, here's the great white liberal media not discriminating by putting all minorities on the weekend. It's the great watch. It's there the whole time, and no one will say anything. No one will say, yeah, why is it that you wait until the weekend to put on all the minorities? Because they don't. Because they do distort shit, but that's another reason why I did this podcast is, man, the way forward is for us to be a team. Is for us to respect and dig each other, and it's not going to happen if someone like Brad Hughes is a racist because he likes Donald Trump. It's not that.
Right.
You know what I mean? If you're a racist, we're really fucked. But you know what I mean?
Well, and if this person listens to this podcast, he's going to know what I'm talking about. There's a rugby guy we played with in Kansas City. If there's anybody on my Facebook page that supports Donald Trump, you can defriend me now. Okay, defriend.
But
I'm like, dude, really? That's where it's going to come to. My friend, I tell you what, I got friends that are very, very liberal. I mean, very liberal. They're still my friends. They're still going to be my friends.
But isn't that kind of what? Maybe that's a better way of saying what I'm trying to say is when we take these positions that aren't based upon fact, it just gets silly. You know what I mean? But
yeah,
it would be great. One of the great things about rugby is, man, it is, you get a bunch of people together and no one gives a shit. It's, are you going to help us win on Saturday? And if so, great. Let's go win and then get really drunk, which seems to be a reasonable approach to life generally.
Yeah, no, it's and it just go on the whole, the racial, the Black Lives Matter situation. And that was a hot topic. Right. I mean, that was a big, big deal. And, and it's funny because I got corrected, and I'm not ashamed to say this. In my mind, the reason I said what I'm getting ready to say wasn't,
I know exactly what you're getting ready to say.
Yeah. In my mind at the time, and I think this is where the reasoning comes in. It's like, you got to just listen. Right.
Right.
Now, I'm not telling you to just listen.
Right.
I'm just saying,
no, I'm
just listen. It's like, man, all lives matter. But then our good friend Nelson, and I sat down, was drinking beer with him at our good establishment at the Falloon, and he's like, well, yeah, sure, all lives do better, but right now we just want to be listened to. And if he didn't tell me that, it probably wouldn't have stuck. And then this is a light bulb switched off. I'm like, I get it. But I totally get it now.
And I understand that, but I I've heard multiple people try to explain this just as you, and it made sense. If you, just because you're saying all lives matter doesn't mean you're saying Black lives don't matter. And,
Right,
and
exactly.
that's the issue where I think it gets unfair, because if you just, here's a perfect example. I watched, there was some show and a guy there, it was a lesbian reporter, and her husband, her wife was with her, and the person asked, "What's your husband's name?" And the guy got referencing the lesbian lady and her partner, and the guy got trashed. And as God is my witness, I live in Long Beach. I'm 100%. I don't care who you're. 100% for everyone's rights. I didn't know the proper way that you would, if you have two gay people are married, how do you reference the other person? I didn't know that until this guy got fucking destroyed. And I was like, I don't think the guy was meaning that in any way, shape, or form to be anti-gay. I think he just didn't know the answer. And when Caucasians say, I think all lives matter, that does not mean you are against Black Lives Matter. Anyway, you're just making a statement that all lives do matter. And I understand where it's coming from, and I see it. But again, it's that distortion of just finding a way to distort differences in a manner that benefits one group or the other, to me, misses the point.
Yeah, and using the flume again, in one situation kind of opened my eyes, was Clark Frost. I think he played football in the Zoo. Black guy from Jeff City, known him for a long time. And he happened to walk into the flume, and we were in that back bar. I think you were there. And I'm like, holy shit, Clark Frost is here. And guys were like, who is it? I go, he's the only black guy of all. He's the guy with the jeans on and pink shirt. He's the black guy. And another black guy who was a regular at the flume took offense to that. Why do you have to call him a black guy? And I'm like, and it was like he was calling me a racist for saying that. I'm like, dude, other than you, he's the only black guy in the bar.
But isn't that the point? That's just dumb. I mean, and again, and I see
that thing is dumb, because I'm not a racist, and I didn't say it in a derogatory way. I mean, one, Clark Frost is a friend, and I like him. I love him. He's a good guy.
But here's the point: you don't have to go on some diatribe defending yourself, because you said the black guy right fucking there. Just like if he had walked in, you said if a zebra walked in the room, you wouldn't say you'd say it's the zebra right there. It's the intent. It's the intent that matters. It is, and that's what gets distorted. Is that what the media does and other people do? Is they don't look at the intent. It's just that you say it. I mean, I'm homeschooling with Callista now, and I would hate for things I say to be examined without there being an intent element behind it, because one, it's just fundamentally it's stupid. But but so you can be for Trump and not be a racist.
Tobacco is great.
Now you're a racist if you chew tobacco, though. If you're a white guy, if you're a white guy or a black guy, and you chew tobacco, you're a racist. So there you go. Or you're from Jeff City, one or the other.
I'm from Jeff City.
By the way, and here's the other thing. You always get into this point is Brad's family's. I mean, we don't even want to get into the non-racist, but it's so funny that again, when we're talking about Trump, it's like Brad, everyone thinks, anyone who knows you're from Trump, then I'm telling you, they think that you are racist. I was always laughing, going, I'm pretty sure Brad's not. I mean, it's crazy. Here's something that I do want to talk about that's important and racially based. So Brad was watching our interview with Bishop Tolbert, who we love. And that's another reason Brad was on there. He says, man, I got a great God story. And Brad and I, one of the things that you'll see reoccurring on this podcast is, people who have been through a lot and are making it and still doing well, one consistent theme is, man, they got a good God story. And part of that really is, as Brad told me one of my favorite lines once, where he said that, was it Al Brooks that told you that, that people ask God to take troubles off their shoulders, and what they should be asking for are stronger legs. And Brad told me that line 5 or 10 years ago, and it was funny, probably 3 or 4 years ago. You kind of go through that, and I was like, fuck that. I need you to take some shit off me. Yeah. But Brad does. You have to have this belief in God, and Brad is it just helps. For me, at least, it helps. I know for Brad it helps. And so what God would want us to do is have competing God stories. However, Brad does have one of the greatest God stories, and can you tell us about that? And then I want to walk into another story, because I really think it's important for people to see that, sometimes when things are the darkest, it's not the end of it. And a lot of times making it through it is believing in God. So please tell it. And by the way, I was telling interracial brother Mark that I said this God story is better than my God stories. So let's have it.
Yeah, man. So, I grew up Catholic, 8 years Catholic school, grade school, 4 years high school. And I don't think we ever opened up the Bible. I just went to church just to go to church because that's what we had to do, right?
Thank you for our Catholic sponsors out there. Brad doesn't mean that. I'm just joking.
It's true. It's true. At Elias High School, I'll tell you, it just, they didn't, they talked about it and that was it. But anyway, but I wasn't as big of a believer as I was when this incident happened. And it was the same time when I tried to off myself, and I was going through a really, really difficult time. And I started praying to all my family in heaven. It's like, Dad, help me. I'd say, I just repeat Our Father, and I would put my emphasis on it, like, my Father.
And by the way, that's how hard you were struggling.
Oh yeah. I mean, that was, so in this instance, I mean, I did that all the time on the airplane and cars, and you're just struggling. Right. And, I happened to be having lunch at a place in Campbell, California, and watching a baseball game. And I was the only guy sitting at the bar eating, and I was drinking iced tea, and I'm watching the game praying, Our Fathers, the Hail Mary to Mary Ann.
You're not praying for the game. You're praying for you.
That's exactly right.
Okay.
Yeah. Cause I was just a glob sitting at this bar, just confused. I was a mess. I was a wreck. I was a total, I don't know how to say it.
Thinking about this not continuing forward.
Just something's not right. What, fix this? What's going on with me? And it was really, that's where it was really confusing.
What I love about, by the way, last time I interrupt, what I love about this story though, it really puts into context how hard you could be trying to find this answer and you can't find the answer. So you're doing the last thing to fix it, which is, God, help me this. And it's that trying and not being able to find the answer that I think you get to the point where I can't fix this. So you're trying to find the answer.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm trying to find out why I'm feeling the way I am. Right. And, cause I didn't like it. So, and I'm sitting there and all, praying. I was there probably an hour, and this gentleman sits down next to me at the bar. And, again, there's all these chairs. Why is he sitting next to me? And first thing I'm thinking is like, dude, there's the hell, there's chairs down here and over there. Why do you have to sit right next to me? Like almost touching arms. And bartender comes up.
Just to put it into context. So there's 6 or 7 bar stools. You're sitting at the end of one. The guy sits right next to you.
Yeah.
Now, by the way, this is where I was telling Bishop Tober, I like how sometimes God speaks very directly to you. So go ahead.
Yeah. So he sits down next to me, and I didn't make eye contact. I could see a guy was next to me and thought it was weird. He's sitting so close to me with all the open bars.
And you're angry anyway. This is
I'm confused.
By the way, you almost beat up God. So for clarity,
no, that didn't come to my mind. But I thought it was weird. Okay. Like it's like going to a urinal and you got 30 urinals and the guy's got to pee next to you. It just didn't make sense, dude. What the hell? So bartender comes up and he's like, hey, he slides. He's being all suave. He slides the coaster down to this guy. He goes, what can I get you to drink? He's like, no, I'll just have a water. And he goes, you want a menu? No. I'm like, okay, now it's really weird. This dude gets a water. He's not going to eat. Then why in the hell is he sitting right next to me? It's weird. And so I'm watching the game.
And you're thinking it's weird. You got to slow down on this because you told it. You're thinking it's weird, and you're processing. Why is he so close? This is weird. Walk people through it so they can feel it, because it's a great story.
Yeah. So he gets his water and the bartender comes up. You want a beer? Nope. You want something to eat? Nope. not going to eat. I don't want tea. I just want my water. I'm good. And so the bartender was kind of aggressive with him. And I'm like, wow, he's not really listening, huh? This guy he's standing at this time next to me. He sits down and puts his hand on my shoulder. He's like, how you doing? And I'm like, yeah, I'm good. I'm good. And then he sat down and he's drinking his water. And I'm up watching the game again, kind of still figuring out why this guy's
What
sitting
time?
right
What time during the day is this?
noon, lunchtime. So I was having lunch. And so on a Saturday, and he goes, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. I'm fine. And he patted me again. He goes, no, seriously, what's going on? Now I'm like,
that just gave me goosebumps again.
Did somebody send him down to sit with me? Say, hey, Brad's there. And I thought of my then girlfriend that we were broke up, sent this guy down. So that starts going in my head. I'm like, I'm being set up. Somebody sent this guy down to talk to me to see if I was okay, right? Then I started thinking, but then he started doing Bible verses to me. He's reading, he's just telling me Bible verses, and I'm like, oh, okay, wait a second here. And he knew that I wasn't good. And I'm like, how do you know I wasn't good? So it was really weird. So he started opening up and you're going through tough times. God has a way of working through people. And he gives you challenge. He doesn't give you more challenges than more challenges than you can accept or take. And he's there. He's strong for you. And I wouldn't ask him. I didn't ask him a single question.
Complete stranger.
Had no idea who this guy was, drinking water in front of me.
I got chills up and down my arms. I've heard this. It's
so he, then we're there for like another hour just talking. And, by that time I'm crying because I opened up to him what was going on. Yeah, I'm having a tough time. I don't know why. And, things I can't figure it out. And I think he even asked if you tried to take your life. And I'm like, yeah, I did, dude. And, it's tough. And he kept patting on my shoulder. He said, it's going to be good. It's going to be good. And so I'm like, it just raised me up. I'm like, holy cow, this is amazing. This guy's here.
By the way, so just to add, so you were not planning on going much beyond this day, correct?
No, I wouldn't say that. I mean, I was in a bad place, but
you were thinking about suicide.
Well, and I tried to do it a few weeks.
Yeah, and that's what's important is.
And don't get me wrong. That came through my mind, right? When Dow said, "You're still here for a reason," right? And I didn't know what that reason was because I was still kind of jacked up in the head. I didn't know what was going on, and so we talked for a long time. I'm drinking my iced tea like it's going out of style. So I had to go pee. So I go, hey, excuse me, don't leave. I'm going to go to the bathroom. So I go to the bathroom and I text my brother, Rick. I'm like, you're not going to believe this. This is the most amazing thing ever. Because at that time, my family was coming to me and concerned and all that. And, praying over me and things like that, praying together. And so my brother, Rick, who, I text him a long text. I kind of told him the story about this guy sitting next to me. I go out the bar. He's gone. He's gone. And I asked the bartender, where'd he go? Oh, he left. He just left. And you'd be crazy not to think that wasn't some sort of intervention by God.
Well, this one thing.
So I told my brother Rick that, and he goes, we have angels walking amongst us, Brad. And that happened. So of course that next day I went to church and I'm like, thank you. Thank you. And I told you this, but a couple of days later.
Yeah, it's I was going to say you have to finish the story.
Yeah.
But before we go to the next, but one of the parts I loved about that story when he puts his hand on your shoulder and says, God loves you. Now I don't care. Here's my thing about God stories is people can say what they want, but here's just statistically speaking, the likelihood there are 350 million Americans, you can say that that wasn't meant to be, but that's 1 in 350 million just for a person to walk in and do that. That's just God.
It's a
dude.
coincidence. You know, I've heard that. It's a coincidence.
That's all.
And I'm like, call it what you want, man. I know what it was.
Right.
Right. And it couldn't have been a better time.
And you took strength from that.
Well, big time.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, you know, it's, you know, again, why I said the Catholic thing growing up, I'm a believer, but not walking it.
Right.
You know, I'm not a walker.
It's one thing we talked with Bishop Tolbert, where I said that one of the sad things for me is how religion is, how God, I don't even know what religion is, how God is not available to us, even though he really is available to us. And that's why I love these God stories, is where it's here it is. You're not in church, you're not doing anything, and God walks in and says, I'm here for you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm here for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So continue the story, which is maybe even better.
Yeah. So a few days later, same trip that when I was out there and eating lunch at another bar. And I noticed the guy sitting, and this bar was full. And I happened to be sitting next to this guy, and he was playing with the San Francisco 49ers tag, brand new, still had a tag on. And he's playing with it and just kind of, you know, you could tell he was not right.
Struggling.
And so I noticed it, and I just, hey, are you okay? How's it going? He's like, yeah, no, things aren't good. I'm like, well, what's going on? He's like,
by the way, how many other people were in the bar?
There was quite a few at this bar. I mean, there's people behind us sitting down, the bartender who I knew, and the bartender knew this guy too, because this guy had to go get his hair cut and the bartender just got his hair cut, something like that.
What I love though about the story is that in your story, you're the only one there. In this story, there are multiple other people there. And out of those other people, you notice some guy you've never known in your life.
You're exactly right. And knowing that he looked depressed, right? He just didn't look right. And so I started talking to him, and he told me that he was having problems with his wife, and he got her the hat to try to smooth things out. He didn't go into detail why they were having problems, but he was really upset, and he goes, I'm going to try this. I'm going to try and give her a hat. She loves the Niners. And I go, that's cool, man. And about that time, he had to go get his hair cut. I go, hey, before, don't leave, come back. I'm going to save your seat for you. So he got his hair cut, came back, and I got to talking to him. And I shared with him my story that I had a few days earlier. And I'm like, dude, you're obviously upset. And he started crying, which I knew I hit a nerve at that point. And I felt good that, hey, man, you can cry to me. You can get this off your chest. And that's, at that time, I was really listening to him. Whereas before, I really wouldn't listen to people that much, right? Especially a stranger, somebody I didn't know and would never see again. And before he got up and left, he goes, hey, man, I just want to tell you, thank you for the conversation, because I was going to drop the hat off and go kill myself. I'm like, don't do that. He's like, absolutely not. And I'm like, I would not have said, if that experience I had in Campbell didn't happen, I probably wouldn't recognize this guy going through a tough time.
It's amazing. So, it's incredible.
It was good. Just,
isn't that great? Isn't that great? It's and I can add another part to this story, because when our friend Dow Richards went and got Brad in the parking lot, Dow had another person. It's a similar story that this guy went to. I thought him and Susan's wedding. He said he didn't really know him that much, and he got a call, and the guy was in Walmart parking lot, and started talking to Dow and said he's going to kill himself. And Dow says, "Don't do that. I'm going to come over there." And so it all just comes full circle, where someone who takes just an extra moment to say, "Wait a minute." And again, Dow's a head of ER. And your situation where you took that amazing gift where God gets you, where he sits someone right next to you, and then you gives that to you, and then you give that to someone else. It's an amazing story, dude.
It opens your eyes. It opens your eyes, and ever since, really. I mean, Dre and I we're walking it. No, we're not perfect. Nobody's perfect. Bishop Tolbert said that in the last 5. We're not perfect. There's only one person that's perfect, and it's not us.
Yeah.
But I've mended a lot of relationships that I thought I scorned in the past, and there's some relationships I was hoping to get a good response out of, a positive response after, hey man, apologize and sorry, I was such a dick back in the days, and I don't get that response. But my brother Rick said it best: it's really none of our business what people think of us. And I'm like, that's true.
That was
right?
kind of Bishop Tolbert's thing, where he says you got to have a relationship with God.
Yeah.
Would you care to talk about the other thing a little bit?
Yeah, no, not at all. And that, I think that all of this kind of coming together, right? I think made me stronger. Now, the situation that you're talking about, and
Well, let me set it up first, because I think it's one of the reasons
yeah,
I wanted to.
You started it, or
yeah. Well, one of the reasons I wanted to come to it last is because I wanted people to hear that your story, and then to hear that how God literally stepped in and put a dude next to you and said God loves you,
right.
and how you've come so far. And one of the things that I love about you and I respect about you so much is your empathy and compassion for other people, which is another reason why I'm in complete agreement you're a racist. But it's your empathy for people is unbelievable. Part of your story is also being a victim of just horrible molestation. And again, through our friendship forever, I've never in my life saw you be mean to anyone, literally. And I've seen you fight 10, 20 times. I never saw you be mean to a living person ever. I never saw just unbased anger, and unbased isn't a word, anger without a basis from you ever. And don't get me wrong, when someone harmed someone else, you were going to fuck them up. But you were never angry. You were never angry for no point. But there was an anger about you. And it's just, and we knew each other. And I don't even remember when you finally brought this molestation up. Do you remember?
Yeah, we were in Long Beach, and I think we were out having dinner or something, and I saw a guy that had those tennis shoes on.
Yeah.
And
the Adidas turtlebacks. Is that what they're called?
The toe of them had that shell.
Yeah, I wrote it down.
Shell toes?
Adidas tortoise shell.
Tortoise shell, yeah. And
white Adidas with the top coming over them.
Yeah. And I mentioned that to you. And if it wasn't for you asking, I probably would have dropped it like I did for 40 years. I did, it would get brought up, or I wouldn't bring it up. It was just to me and my two brothers that talked about it. But there wasn't a day that went by before our store, when we had dinner, there wasn't a day that went by that you didn't think about this guy or what happened. So go to that time when we're having dinner. I saw those shoes.
But let's do this first. There are things going on, and I don't think that you should mention his name. And I'm not. No. That's not.
Yeah, I won't.
Okay.
Yeah, I won't. Yeah.
But he was a doctor from Springfield.
Yeah. So I told you the story. I'm like, yeah, there's this guy, this doctor. When I was, at diabetic camp, befriended us and my family, and he wore those shoes. And I think that's when you asked me, whoa, what happened? And then I think that's when you're the first friend that I ever told about what happened when I was a child,
young.
Young, and a couple of my brothers.
Were you 8? Were you 8?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. 8, 9, 7, 8, 9. That time frame, 76, 77.
One of the things that we're going to talk about on this podcast is, to me, and again, it's just the level of pedophilia in this country. And I'm not whoever's the racist group that doesn't like pedophiles. I'm not a racist, but to me, it's stunning the level of pedophilia and people being okay with it with 8 and 9. And it's stunning. But you were 8, 9.
Yeah, and there's been times I told, therapists, counselors throughout the years, and nothing got done with it. So I'm like, there's nothing to be done about it. Just live with it, have that Band-Aid on the rest of our lives, and oh, just live with it, and deal with it. And I think that's where a lot of my anger came from.
Sure.
You can only guess.
And it was an extended period. One of the things, and I remember your mom felt bad about this, and it was literally what a lot of parents don't understand is these pedophiles are experts at spotting and identifying a circumstance. Your mom was raising 7 kids, 6 boys. No, I'm sorry, 8 kids, 8 boys, 1 girl.
Yeah.
And this guy just, let me help you out with your boys. And this was a long time ago when
my dad left when I was 3-4 years old.
Yeah, and so this was.
And then I was diagnosed with diabetes when I was 4.
So this guy was an expert, and they are at isolating people. He did that with you, and it was horrible.
Yeah. So when the search engines came out and computers started getting better, I mean, I would look this guy up. And, first I would look incarcerated. No, because I swore that he had to be in prison. He got caught, right?
Brad, let me jump to that. Brad calls him because I found that motherfucker. You remember that? I found that motherfucker.
Down in Springfield, and that was the thing in the video. And I was shocked that he's still practicing. He's a pediatrician, and his video that this hospital had on their website was him talking about pediatric care at this hospital and how great they are. And then at the end of the interview, he goes, I love children. They're fresh. And I think that's when I sent it to you, because I know you very well that you wouldn't let that slide. And I'm like, look at this shit. And so steps were taken. I don't know how much you want me to tell you that.
Well, by the way, let's so, and this is when I knew you were getting better, but this was when I was really worried about you. And that is, you knew where he was.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was better at the time. I was married. I mean, this was 3 years ago.
Oh, I understand. But this was enough that I was, here's what I told the FBI. All I know is that this man molested my friend, and my friend I would not be surprised if he went and fixed things. I was worried. And here, the other part about being worried was it made sense. This was one where, I went and killed him. I went and killed him. That would be like, makes sense. I was worried about that. I mean, I was worried.
Yeah. I mean, it's a weird situation, I don't know what I would have done if I saw this guy. And so when all the FBI was notified, you have to contact the hospital.
FBI did nothing.
Nothing. And because it's statute of limitation and all that stuff.
By the way, we spent, it was months trying to get, and this guy's wide in the open. No one did anything. You stayed on it.
Well, you contacted the hospital. Yeah, I think
that was we first contacted the FBI. You remember, and it was, I think, the next Christmas, because I was at Callista's. She was 8. I was at Callista's Christmas thing, and Brad, I got goosebumps. I looked over, and there was those fucking Adidas tortoiseshell, and I said, "Son of a bitch." and I said, I'm going to do something about this, because it just hit me. And there's my kid, and there's those shoes, and this pedophile is still out there. And we went back and redoubled our efforts, and then got something going.
I got a call from the hospital and said that your lawyer, Mr. Hughes, your lawyer, contacted us, and I'm like, Fletcher contacted the hospital.
I found out, dude. Because I went home. I was like, dude, I'm not going to do this. And so, we did, and she was great. Tell the lady's name, because she was amazing.
I forget her name. She was the head of HR.
Oh no, I meant who was the investigator? You remember her?
Maggie
was great.
McDowell.
Maggie was great.
Well, that's later on. But the hospital. Here's the great thing: the hospital. So the hospital took my what was it, deposition? Is that the right word?
They took a statement.
My statement. Thank you. And I,
Let me give you the background there. I said to the hospital, I said, here's all I can tell you is that I'm making a record with you that you have a pedophile pediatrician on your staff that has molested children for 30 years. So I just want that record to be clear that you know about this. And then they did something.
it worked. I think that day she called, and this particular doctor was on vacation in the Caribbean.
Oof.
And so I gave her my statement, and I had a couple phone calls with him. And she said, it's like, well, when he comes back from vacation, we're going to call him in. And I did say, I go, if he denies it, I'll be more than happy to drive down to Springfield, sit across the table from him and remind him. And she's like, well, hopefully it doesn't come to that.
And Brad meant this, and what I love is Brad kept saying, I'd really be willing to go. I'm like, no, that's not a good idea. We're not going to do that. We're not going to do that.
So literally 2 weeks later, was on a flight to go see my stepdaughter graduate from high school, sitting on the
What's
plane.
up, Bella?
What's that?
What's up, Bella?
Yeah, Bella. Backing out of the on the plane, backing away from the terminal, I get a call, and it was the hospital, and I'm like, holy shit! It's like, yeah, Mr. Hughes, we called Dr. Manhole.
We'll take that out.
Okay. We called him in, and I'm prepared that they're going to say he denied it and all that.
Right.
He didn't deny anything. He said it did happen, and we want to thank you because we fired him on the spot. Contacted the AMA. His license has been suspended, and we also contacted the Attorney General's office. And I was just like stunned.
By the way,
like,
I think we can say that it was St. Luke's, right? We're not going to, Mercy Hospital.
Mercy
and by the way, and both Brad and I comment after, it was amazing how quickly they moved. So shout out to Mercy, because they really went and got him in and got him gone. It was touching.
Yeah, you can edit that name, right?
No, Mercy did the right thing.
I mean, get his name.
Yeah, that'll go.
Yeah. So, so it was great. Go to California for the graduation, come back. I get contacted by the Attorney General office, and she went and interviewed the hospital and got the statement.
It was Maggie, right?
Maggie McDowell, yeah.
Yep.
And
tell Maggie McDowell was an investigator for the Attorney General's office, and she wanted to pull all of his credentials. She went on a 3-month investigation, and then go on, right?
Yeah, and got the statement. I provided her pictures of. By this time, 2 brothers were like, "Yes, bring it up." One brother did 5 tours with the Army, and another brother in the Army and is based out of Springfield.
By the way, as I told your mom, she felt bad, and I said, well, all 3 of your boys have done this to help people. And it was, I mean, Rick's, he's just like, I don't care. I'm gonna stand up and say something. And it's what with your mom. I was like, you don't understand how hugely complex this is. And all 3 of your boys said, I'm going to do something. It was incredible. It was incredible.
You know, it was a long time, right? I mean, it was 40 years, and you know, we've talked about that, like with my mom. I mean, of course, you worry, you know, how your parents will feel on something like that. We just assured her she did absolutely nothing wrong, right? And then my older brother was worried for him because he knew what he was doing was wrong, but still allowed my other brother and I to go.
But by the way, I'm not sure that's the case back then, that they know it's wrong. I'm not sure it is.
And as far as us, right, it goes back to what we said earlier. You know, doctors, priests, no way.
Sure.
You know, the safest hands ever, you know.
But by the way,
that's probably what.
We have to wrap it up. But by the way, you remember how we finally caught this motherfucker? He said to Maggie, gee, I thought the boys would take some good out of it. And
Yeah.
was that what he said?
All the positive things that we did, I thought would outweigh the negative I did.
And we're sitting there, and Brad told me about it. I was like, that's fucked up. And I was driving down the street like the next day. I'm like, oh, that's intentional infliction of emotional distress, denying it. And even though it was 30 years, now things are moving forward because the fucking pedophile piece of shit ran his mouth.
Yep. Now he's done. So we're in the middle of court hearing, whatever. Mediation?
Proceedings.
And he still doesn't have his license. And so for that, it's good. If anything comes out of this, it's that he's never going to be able to practice medicine again. So,
well, and you know what else comes out of it is we get that's one of my favorites. I mean, I love you tremendously, even though you're racist. And I'm always impressed with your commitment to other people and helping. And that situation was just devastating. And your willingness and your brother's willingness, Rick and Kip, to stand up and do something. I'm like, that is leadership. That's integrity.
Well, it wasn't Rick, but it was yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Who was it?
Yeah.
Oh, did I?
Scott.
Sorry, Scott.
If they want their names.
Sorry, Scotty. Brad, we got to wrap up. We're running out of time. I love you. Hi,
Bye,
Andrea.
man.
I love you too. So what else? Is that it? We done?
It's your fucking podcast, man. I don't know.
All right. I love you, man. Thank you. This has been a production of the Laugh Bureau and Mark Samuels Media, both of whom are club members. So both entities club members. I love you, Brad. I love you, Andrea. All right, bye.
Dude, man.
The Fletch Cast. It's genetics.